Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson, and this is Objectives Typography News number 62. Today is Sunday, not Friday, Sunday, July 12th, 2026, and per usual, I have plenty of typography news to get into for you today. Sorry for this little bit of a late start if you're watching live. It's been a while since I've scheduled a stream and I wasn't sure how to do it. So there might even be an awkward millennial pause at the beginning of this. But luckily I have that little bit of a splash screen. So hopefully that covered up any mishaps. Let me give you the rundown of the stories that we're going to be looking at today. First things first, though, today's episode is sponsored by FontBase. First time we've had a sponsor. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Koto, the design studio that we've talked about many times on this channel in terms of like really cool branding, or at least really big branding, launched a type foundry, CC Type. They launched a new typeface. We're going to look at it today. But that's a big story. We cover whenever type foundries launch, but it's not super often that a studio this big launches a foundry. We've got a new book coming out. Blender posted a video that I'll look at here in a second. I know that's not entirely type related, but I think for a lot of the creatives, you'll still be interested to see this one. Typofonderie has an internship coming up. And then I have a type specimen, an actual printed type specimen that was sent into the channel. So we're going to look at that. We've got some event stuff, event coverage, TypeCon related stuff. And we've got 8 new releases today. We've got one that we forgot to cover last week, which is from Sale Character. We've also got type releases, like I said, from CC Type, Bold Monday, Dinamo, Antipixel, DualType, and Brutal Types. And then we're going to get into 2 recent releases to look at deep dives from ATypI and TinyType. Today we're going to be looking at Sastre from ATypI, and we're going to be looking at Gagneur, hopefully I'm saying it right, Gagneur from TinyType. And then I'm going to send you off with 3 different channels to go check out on YouTube because they have been uploading a lot of new content, and they probably won't be new to any of you, but it's always good to just have a reminder of new content that's being put out because the algorithm doesn't always show you. I guess shameless self-promo. I have a newsletter. It's linked in the description. I don't think I've ever mentioned it before, but if you want to beat the algorithm, I do have a newsletter. I basically just send it out on Mondays and say, hey, I published an episode yesterday or on Friday. Speaking of which, we are going to go back to Sunday live streams. I think that I'm able to do these a little bit earlier on Sunday, and I'm trying to play the YouTube game a little bit here. And I think that posting on Sunday or streaming on Sunday and then letting people watch the replays on Monday would probably pick up a little bit better than streaming on Friday and then, hoping people check YouTube over the weekend. So let me go ahead and switch my screen. We're going to get into these first stories here. I do have one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick. I've been doing my best for the last year and a half to really avoid, not necessarily avoid, but yeah, I guess kind of avoid the AI drama related to type design or typography in general. I've covered a few different things about it, but I think it's kind of finally reached a point where it's just inescapable. Every week I put some new AI drama into my show notes, and every week I cut it because it's just kind of oh, is this the most important thing? I'm not sure. And so I kind of move on. It's just kind of reached a point where it keeps being brought up, and I wouldn't be doing a good job as a typography journalist if I'm not talking about what the industry is talking about. So I'm not sure what that format's going to look like yet, but it's coming. I'm not going to let it completely consume typography news. If anything, it'll be a small segment in typography news and then something bigger outside of this. But I do want to let you know I am going to cover that. Go ahead and give me your thoughts one way or the other about AI stuff in typography if you want. I am going to switch my screen now. Let's see if I can remember how. Screen cap, there we are. That is not what we're going to look at, but that is the sponsor for today. We are going to start out looking at CC Type. This is from Koto. I didn't have Koto linked in the description, but let's go ahead and, I don't know, is it just Koto.com? What's Koto's website? Koto.com, yes. So we've talked about Koto a number of times on the channel. Like I said, this seems to be, I don't know, maybe they have a bunch of videos and stuff. I have my stuff to auto block videos. Okay, so we've seen they've rebranded Amazon. They rebranded Who else did they do? We've talked about a few different ones of these. Lyft was one we looked at. TripAdvisor was one we looked at. Yeah. So they've done a lot of huge rebrands recently. And that's why they basically showed up on the channel. Very type driven, very good, solid designs. Some of them, I had some critiques about some of them, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about CCtype, which is their new foundry. This is the website right here. Front and center is CC Timeline. That's going to be the typeface that we look at today. And that's front and center because that's what I'm on. When you go to the homepage, let's see if there is a homepage outside of this. When you go to the homepage, it redirects to CC Timeline. So that's the first typeface. We are going to be looking at that today, and I fully expect to be doing a deep dive on that next week. I already requested and received a review license for that. So it's a tough one because there are a lot of really good typefaces this week to look at. Let's go ahead and get down to some of the stuff about the website, though, because I'm not sure why this is redirecting directly to the font. We're going to come to that in a second, but I want to see more about like the what is stuff right here. So CCtype right here, it says that it was built for the contemporary world. There's a little bit of criticism in this part right here. I picked up on it. I wasn't necessarily going to mention it because a lot of type foundries, they just kind of say things sometimes, but they don't necessarily mean a lot. So I don't really mind if the language doesn't really match. I more care about the actual designs themselves. But CCtype, it says, is a typography foundry by Koto, built for the contemporary world, not type inspired by the past and adapted for now, type designed for the reality of how brands operate in 2026. The criticism for this comes a little bit when we get to CC Timeline, where it's like pulling type from the past and bringing it into now. But like I said, these kind of things don't bother me too much. There is a little bit of drama around this. I don't know if I want to pull from it now. Let's just pull from it now and we can come back to this. So Chris Howersby of Clem posted this on Instagram and says like, FFS, they ripped my 2-month-old tech layout. And so this is his right here, De Grotesque. And you can see the stats right here. We talk about a lot of these stats on when I'm talking about new releases and things like that. So he takes a screenshot of his, and then he takes a screenshot of theirs, and they are more or less a one-for-one layout in terms of the font details, the font information. I get it. There's, this alone doesn't mean, I'll stay neutral. There's what he posted. There's what Chris Howersby posted. And then Rutherford Craze of Mass Driver posted their philosophy, their licensing philosophy. Here is his, and here is theirs. The dark gray is CCtype. This one is Mass Drivers. And if you take a second, you could pause if you want. If you take a second to look at these two, they are very similar. So there does seem to be some similarities. I won't make any speculations as to how this happened, but other people have implied, have hinted that this may have been some AI scraping websites and putting together this website for CCtype. I don't know, there's no way for me to know that. I will reach out to them and ask them based on this criticism. I kind of want to let the criticism simmer for a little bit before I, and it's to see where they landed, but see where people's conversations landed before I reached out for a comment, but I will do that. The last thing I wanted to point out here is that they had been previewing this for a while, so that site is just kind of like a gray website, but they do have some stuff on their Instagram if you want to check that out. I don't think I linked this in the description, but everybody knows how to look up stuff on Instagram, right? But they've got some specimens and stuff. It's mostly all revolving around the new typeface CC Timeline. And it's kind of cool. The concept itself is kind of cool. We'll get to that in a second. And then, like I said, next week we'll hit it up with a deep dive. So just going quick on this one. But CCtype is the new type foundry from Koto. It'll be interesting to see how this develops. Every week there are new releases, but not every week is there a new foundry and not one with this high of a profile. So I think that definitely makes it worth reporting on. They do have trials. The trials are limited. Like I said, right now there's only one font to try. So Just put your name, email, and they will send it to you. I did that, and then I requested a review license for CC Timeline, and I received that. I will talk about that in a little bit. Let's move on to the next story. There is a second edition of a typography book. Let me get a drink of water while this loads. Okay, check chat, we're good. There's a second edition of how to create typefaces. There are a lot of people, cookie banners. There are a lot of people that that we've reported on, type designers and such, that were part of this book. And I think that anyone interested in type design from the outside, like me, or from the inside, probably like you, would be very interested in this. I do think it's probably, I'm not sure. I haven't read this book, so I won't say who it's for. But based on some of the reviews and stuff like that, it seems like it would be a good book for beginners. And if you want to see a little bit about, here are the authors right here. Yeah. People we've talked about several times on this channel. They do have a full flip through on the website. Let me just point out one thing though, because if you come up here, it says download book sample. It's not actually a book sample so much as it is kind of like, this is what it is. It's kind of like a promotional piece. I do feel like it gives you a good look at what the book is. But it's not like what you would think of as a sample. Like if I see a book sample on, say, Amazon or something, I would assume that it's actually going to show you like the first, I don't know, 10, 12, 20 pages of the book and let you kind of see what it's going to be like. Instead, this kind of goes through and gives you pictures of the book and gives you some details about what's inside of it, which I do think is actually probably better, but it's just not what I expected. So I felt a little bit of bait and switch at first, but give it a chance anyway, because it does give you a lot of context about what is in the book and a lot of the details and stuff like that. These details would probably be more important if you already own the first edition and you are interested in whether or not you want the upgrade. If you do want a more close look at it though, I think this is linked in the description. Maybe I forgot to link this one entirely in the description. I'm gonna have to check. I apologize. If this isn't linked in the description, it is. I'll put it in chat right now just so it's here, and then I'll be able to say hi to Jim. Hi, Jim. Streaming a little bit earlier for all of my European and beyond subscribers, viewers. Oh my goodness. Hopefully this works out a little bit better for some people to be able to see the live streams. If you want a quick look at what's actually in the book though, like page for page, their YouTube has everything. They go through it super fast. You could put it on like half speed or something like that, I guess. But it goes through every single page in the book. It's only about a minute though, so you're getting through a few hundred pages in 1 minute, but it does give you a good look at it. So this is a book that I am going to be looking at purchasing. You may have noticed I haven't done a lot of book reviews lately. I'm still reading them. I'm actually reading more of them when I was doing reviews, but I just don't necessarily have the time to do them, unfortunately. But this one does seem really cool. I just wanted to point out real quick before we leave this is that there's early bird pricing right here until July 22nd. So you got about 10 days to get the early bird pricing on this one. How to create typefaces from sketch to screen, second edition, revised. Okay. Next up, like I said, we have a story from Blender. I don't know if we've talked about Blender on the channel before. I've mentioned it kind of in passing that I use Blender and use these different apps and stuff. Typography in Blender it's not, how would you say this? It's not super intuitive. It's not like most design apps. So that's a whole other topic to go over, but I think a lot of people are probably familiar with Blender. If you're not, it's open source 3D software that you can download for free, and it's studio quality. So much so that they have put out a lot of shorts over the years that you can find on their YouTube channel, but they're producing a full feature film project, and they put out a recent YouTube video right here. And let me go ahead and just scan through a little bit of this. Let me pause it and just kind of skip through. And they are looking for people to help fundraise this. They're looking for people to support them so they can fundraise this. And and produce the full film. So yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning in case you are someone that's interested in Blender. The people that do support are going to get like behind the scenes. You're going to be able to see the tools they're using, and I don't know, probably even some of the files and stuff. Don't quote me on that. But you're going to get a lot of behind the scenes with this one right here. Yeah, open source tools and production knowledge. So I think it would be pretty cool if you're into movie making or animation, or you just want to support Blender because Blender's awesome. They are working on a full feature film, and yeah, they're looking for supporters. I've been watching this number go up right now. Even just in the last 20 minutes, it's gone up by 4 subscribers. So hopefully they do hit their goal of 7,000, because I would love to see a full feature film by Blender, by the Blender studio, not just by, you know, another studio making it, because Blender does a great job at showcasing the full power of what Blender can do. And I think also Blender will get better as a result of that. Like if Blender makes a full film with it, I think that everyone will benefit based on the improvements they make to the software by going through that full process. Okay, next up is an internship. I saw this first on Instagram, so I'll show you that one first, but I do think it goes a little bit more in depth on Blue Sky. So I'm going to show you both of these. Internship at Typofonderie. This is, like I said, I think there was a time, it was a few weeks ago, we were talking about job opportunities, and there was a job opportunity at a Letterform Archive, and I was saying like, this could put you on a really cool trajectory in life. I think an internship at Typofonderie would be one of those type of moments. Obviously, internships are for college kids or recent graduates. So it's not going to be for everyone like the job position would have been. But this is something that if you are a student and you're watching this, I know when I was a student, I didn't have a ton of time to watch anything outside of like just doing my schoolwork. So I don't know how many of you are students, but maybe some of you know students, type design students, and you could link them to this because I do think it's a good opportunity, and hopefully, you know, the people deserving of such an opportunity end up getting it. So that is that. I don't have much more to say about it. Internship at a great famed type foundry. And we have 2 more stories here. I'm actually I'll pull this up, but then I'm gonna do a face cam on it. We talked about Calenza a couple of weeks ago. It was a new release. Give it a second. There it is. And this isn't one that we ended up doing a deep dive on, but it is a really cool typeface and it had a fun story to it. I thoroughly enjoyed reading the blog about this one. And I even emailed Olivier to let him know that I liked it. And then I told you guys that I had some PDF specimen, or not PDF specimens. I had, there's a PDF specimen available right now that's on here. And I had mentioned I had other specimens and from Mostar Design Foundry. And I mentioned that I assumed that if this came out, it would be equal in quality. And funny enough, I got an early version of an early release of said type specimen. It is staple bound this time, so it's not like a magazine or anything, but the quality inside is just as good. And I actually linked in the description a Blue Sky link. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a few different pages in here so you can see glossy paper. You know, glossy paper is great for images. It could be a little difficult to read text, but luckily this is mostly, you know, it's a specimen. So most of it is pretty large. This isn't a text typeface. You could set some text in it, but it's more of a display typeface. It's built off those Italian street signs and stuff. But you can see they're using it right there. The color looks good, even with that thin column on there. But it's a fun one. And this on the back says that it is legal deposit, says August 2026. So I do believe this is coming out, if I can get my hands to go in the right direction, I believe this is coming out next month. So it's not available on the website yet, but you can look at the PDF. And I don't know. Yeah, shout out to Mostar Design. This is not like a paid promo or anything, but they sent me this, and I think it's pretty cool. And I love looking at print. Sorry, I'm just like looking at this instead of looking at you. I love looking at print looking at type in print. You know, it's a different experience than looking on the screen. So I don't know, check out Calenza. The PDF specimen's on there. The story's really cool. If nothing else, I would say check out the story. But if you're interested in the specimen, if you like the PDF specimen, the printed version is coming, and I can attest that it is very nice, well printed, thick paper, glossy, staple bound this time, but still very nice. At least with the staples, you don't have to worry about the glue going bad eventually. Let me see what we have next. TypeCon. We have TypeCon news. Let's get into this one. Okay. I mentioned a few weeks ago, am I on the screen? Okay. I mentioned a few weeks ago that TypeCon was coming up, and it was whenever Typographics had ended, and I went to the TypeCon website, and I was like, oh, the speakers still aren't on there. They need to update their website. It was still from 2025 stuff. Luckily enough, they did. Just a few weeks later, we have all the speakers listed here, and there will be several of them that are overlapping with the Typographics conference. And there are plenty of new ones, but not new to the channel. I can see several people that I have personally spoken with, or that we have spoken about on the channel. And I think that this should be another excellent conference. Unfortunately, I'm going to be, oh, John Downer's picture isn't it showing up there. I won't be there. I'm in Brazil, and my daughter is just barely 1 year old, so 1 year old. So I'm not going to be traveling internationally this year, but maybe next year I'll see you guys there. If you do go, let me know. This is going to be in August. I guess we could check the dates real quick. I wanted to scan through the rest of these. August 6th through the 8th in Portland, Oregon. The funniest one on here, I think, was Mark Simonson, that photo there. If you know what Mark Simonson looks like, I think that's a picture from years ago. But there you have it. The 2026 speakers for TypeCon 2026. They're live. Now you can know, if there's anybody there you want to go see or not. I'm not sure that I don't think the schedule and stuff like that is posted yet. Or is it? The schedule is posted. Okay, the full schedule is on there. This was not something that I was emailed about. The full schedule does appear to be on there, so that's great to see. No, yeah, maybe. Some of it's on there. Okay, some of it's on there. I think maybe all of it's on there. Yeah, all of it's on there. I apologize. This part is kind of messy. But yeah, it looks like TypeCon has been fully updated and looks good. So now you should 100% know what you're getting into. You can see the speakers' photos there along with the names. So that's very nice to see. Nice update. Let's get into some typefaces. We've got 8 new releases, like I said, 2 deep dives, and then I'm gonna send you off with some videos after that. I am going to open this up, take my face off the screen. I'll see you guys after. We'll get into some new releases here. This is one that actually released a couple weeks ago, and I had mentioned that I was going to talk about it, and then I didn't. So I'm coming back to it right now. I'm going to close out some tabs. Tab. Okay, our first new release this week is from Sail Character, and this is Walla Mono. Walla, named after Auguste Walla. My American brain wants to say August Walla, but it is Auguste Walla, I believe. This right here that we're looking at right now is Walla, and it was designed, inspired by the work of Auguste Walla, like I said before. So I'm going to zoom in on this real quick and give you a little bit of context, and then we'll get to the mono version. So these are some of the designs, the artwork. You can see a lot of lettering and stuff there, but if we get a little further along, you will see some of these have lines going through them. If I can get to it, maybe not. You see a lot of lettering. Okay, so I guess we're not seeing much of it here. There he is right there. Shoot. Well, the cool thing about this, I apologize. The cool thing about this, it's a sans serif. It looks nice, grotesque, possibly neo-grotesque, I guess. The cool thing about it was these right here, where you could get these alternative stylistic sets that had the extra lines and stuff going through them. And then you had these here that had these circular loops and stuff going through them up in the top right. And I thought that was kind of cool because it could allow you to do some fun headline stuff while still having a workable typeface. Now there is a monospace version of that, and this is what I was introduced to. I didn't know that the Walla, the regular one existed before. This was my introduction to it, so we're going to come back to this because this is the new release. I think just as a standalone monospace typeface, it looks nice. This is the lightweight right here. It does come in 4 weights. It does come in 4 weights. Looks like light, regular, medium, and bold, I think. And it looks nice in body copy. It looks nice as just a monospace typeface. It looks nice at like these larger sizes like this. And it looks cool for these sort of interfacing pieces of text. I think these, this signage and stuff right here is really cool. It's always nice when you can kind of space out signage, whether that's, for menus or whether that's for airports or, some sort of travel and things like that. But again, the thing that makes this special is the OpenType features, and they exist in the monospace as well. So there's stuff that you can change, the typical things you would expect to see, old style numbers. There's an alternate percentage sign. I did not expect to see that. That's interesting. I don't know that I would necessarily know the first one there is a percentage sign. I would assume I'd know the second one was. But the cool thing here is the same as before. Top left here, you've got pulsion rhythm, and it just completely transforms it. Obviously, it still keeps the spacing, which is nice, the mono spacing there, but it completely changes that. The bottom middle here, middle bottom, pulsion multiple gives you those multiple lines on there with the M, the L, the E, and then pulsion game up on the top right gives you those loops and circles. So yeah, there's some cool stuff going on here. This is one that I really thought I would do a deep dive on, but there's just so much good stuff coming up in this episode that I don't know that it's really going to make the cut. So that's why I'm kind of trying to show you as much as I can right now. This is linked in the description along with all the other stories that we're going to be talking about today. So go ahead and check this out. I will have chapters added after the live stream, but for now you could follow along and go through those in the description. But I think this is a really fun one. Let me see. 4 weights on this. It is variable. 1,110 glyphs on it. 39 OpenType features. Full trial. So you can test this out. You don't need me to do a deep dive. You can go test this out in all of its glory. Full trial on this one. About $240. The license on it, I don't love, but the typeface is very fun. So you have to check out the license for yourself and see if it works for you. But in terms of a typeface, in terms of a monospace typeface, this is pretty cool. It's pretty unique. I have seen typefaces that do some of these multiple, strokes added to it and stuff before, but I've never seen one quite like this. I like this quite a bit. Jim Girth in chat says, looks very, very fun. Really cool inspiration for this typeface as well. Jim, you are probably more familiar with this art movement than I am. I think they might have some more source material here that I hadn't looked at. I was not familiar with Auguste Walla, but I did look it up, and I have some questions about using psychiatric patients for art, but as long as they're game for it, then I'm game for it as well. I don't know the situation, so I didn't really want to comment too much on it. But yeah, there's some really cool art and typography and lettering and stuff in his work. I'm just not too familiar with him or this art movement or this period. So I can't really comment on it too much, but you can see if you look close at some of these lettering pieces and stuff, you can see some of the overlaps, especially even in this script here with the A's and the W's. You can see the G, some of the loops and stuff. So they really are pulling inspiration right from him. This one here is pretty good too, in terms of some of the loops and things like that. But yeah, Jim Girth says, never heard of him. Okay, that makes 2 of us. But yeah, it's cool to see inspiration that doesn't really, that's not really like a 1-for-1. And you can see the bits and pieces where they pulled from. But just in general, even if you know nothing, it's still a cool looking typeface. But having a little bit of, something to draw from is always, I'm a sucker for a good story. I'll just say that. I'm a sucker for a purpose-built typeface and a typeface with a story, and this one definitely has one. So Walla already existed, but Walla Mono now exists as well. And that is going to bring us to our first sponsor. Let me get a drink because I've never done this before. So I did mention this. I've mentioned this before. You guys have seen me use FontBase a bunch of times on the channel. I am only contractually obligated to mention one feature and talk for 10 seconds, but anybody that's familiar with the channel knows that's probably not going to happen. This is FontBase. I have a few notes. There are some things that they highlighted for me. The playground, where you can go and do these things, go and test out your fonts. The team licensing, the discovering, the super search. But I'm going to show you why I chose this as my font manager. Number one, you can use it on all three major operating systems. So you can use this on Windows and Linux, which is what I use it on. You can also use it on Mac. But the things that highlighted to me or stood out to me, one, yeah, it was free. So it's free. There are some paid features that you can get, but this is a free font manager. It's available on Windows, Linux, and Mac. I use it on Windows. I dual boot, so I use it on Windows and I use it on Fedora. The best thing about it is you can turn on and off your fonts. If you look up here, I have a ridiculous amount of fonts installed on my PC. I have almost 50,000. In a few weeks, I'll have 50,000 fonts on this computer. I can't have 50,000 fonts active on my computer. That would be crazy. It would slow down every app that I opened. So you can turn them on and turn them off. It's really nice. The other thing that I use it for is this right here. If you see on the left, it's got all of my episodes. So I know which episode has which fonts in it, and I can go and turn them on and turn them off at will. This has saved my life. Not literally, but you can see I started using it at episode 22. The first 21 episodes were pretty rough because I would, use fonts, forget what I used, and open up Affinity and then have to go and activate all those fonts. I was already using FontBase, but I just wasn't using the collections because I'm dumb, I guess. But yeah, so that's going to be my pitch for today. It's a free font manager, works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And I am really grateful that they're sponsoring the channel. They're going to be sponsoring for a month, and we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah, FontBase, please check them out if you need a font manager on any operating system. Not many font managers on Linux. Or very good ones on Windows. So I'm really proud that we got our first sponsor. Let's move on. This is the big one, right? The new release from Koto, the new release from CC Type. I appreciate the encouragement, Jim. This is CC Timeline. Like I said, it's coming from CC Type. At first glance, this looks like, okay, cool. They released, a NeoGrotesque. They released like a default workhorse. And yeah, that's true. But the cool thing about it is that it has 3 different subfamilies in it. So the 3 different subfamilies are going to be medium. No, let's just get to it. I'm going to scroll down through this. 3 different subfamilies, 18 styles. That is because there are 6 weights for each one. So we'll just look at these right here. I think that they're going to have to improve the website a little bit. It's fine. It's pretty average for font foundries. But you're not getting a lot of information up here at top. You kind of get this right here, this little blurb, and that's kind of it. So I'm gonna do the heavy lifting for him here. CC Timeline is the only typeface available from the Foundry. It goes from light all the way up to extra bold. Extra bold looks pretty clean. I always love a really heavyweight sans serif, but this is the regular weight right here. Jim, I appreciate you. Let me show you though. So there is CC Timeline. There's CC Timeline Mid, which is going to give you like a mid contrast. So the first one's low contrast. There's mid high contrast, and there's high contrast. So when you get into some of these like extra bold heavyweights, you can start to see it's not like a Dito or anything, but it does still have pretty high contrast compared to the others. Let's stick with the regular, and you can kind of see it maybe a little bit more. So if I set this on regular, so this is a regular right here, This is the mid semi-bold, and you can see a little bit of contrast in it. And then this is the high extra bold, and you can see even more contrast. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one today because there is a lot of information to figure out. There's a lot of research to be done. But I do have, I guess I could pull this up right here. I do have this already in, I do already have this downloaded. I already have the review license for this. We're going to do a deep dive on this. There they are right there. I've got all my CC timelines. I already have this ready to go. I've played with it a little bit. I can give you some stats on it, I guess, real quick. 18 styles, like I said, 3 contrast, 6 weights, no italics. So that kind of doesn't, that kind of detracts from the workhorse ability of this. But it does look good in body copy just from this right here. It looks solid. It looks like it's doing its job. And I think with those different levels of contrast, you'll be able to kind of refine it to look the way you want it to. But yeah, it is variable, and the variable does let you mess with the contrast and the weights, but there's no italics. Glyph count 809, 22 open type features. The trial is limited, but it does have a price tag of 575 pounds for the full family. So it's it's got the Koto, it's got the price tag to match Koto. But we'll see how it looks. That's not the most expensive typeface we're even going to look at today. Definitely not the most expensive one we looked at on the channel. But it's doing a lot. It's just not doing italics. So we'll do a deep dive on this next week, and we will get into it. I'll be able to give you a better opinion. But as a first look, it looks clean. I'm interested to see the different contrasts. And I already know that I'm going to say next week, I wish it had italics. But that's the first one from CC Type. Shout out to Dylan Young, senior type designer over there. He sent me the review license, and we will look at that next week. We have like 5 more, I think. 5 more new releases to look at here. This third one is from Bold Monday, and it is, I'm going to try to say this right because I believe that it's pronounced as the Dutch should pronounce it, which is Merwede. My American brain is going to probably say Merwede at some point in time, but Merwede is how I believe this is pronounced. Merwede. It is the sans counterpart to Merwede. Merwede is the serif. It's the original. And it was designed by Titus Schultz because he was not pleased with other book typefaces, book face fonts, typefaces designed to print books, and primarily the italic capitals, which he didn't like. He thought that the capitals leaned on the italics a little bit too much, the lowercase italics, so he made them 1 degree less slanted. This premise pulls into the new release that we're looking at today, which is Merwede Sans from Bold Monday, and it is the sans counterpart to it. These are ones that at first glance, because we always look at fonts way too big because, we're nerds and we want to see all the details. When you look at that as first glance, you would not think that this is a book typeface. You wouldn't think this was made for small sizes, but it actually looks really good in these specimens. Can I make these bigger? We're going to have to do an open image in new tab and see how big we can get this. There it is. This actually looks great in context. I don't know what language this is. On the right here, we've got a little bit of English, so I could read that. But this looks surprisingly good based on how much character it appears to have. I'm going to close the serif one so I don't accidentally open that. How much character it appears to have at first glance. And you can see these italics right here. So the lowercase is slanted, and then the R right here is just 1 degree less slanted. So in their words, it's not leaning on the lowercase. Let me go ahead and open up this Kindle looking one, or maybe this is supposed to be a website in the shape of an iPad, I guess. Wild ampersand, says Jim. I'm going to have to go back and look. But yeah, I think this looks good. The color of this looks good. This is another one where like I could see doing a deep dive on it. There's just so many good ones going on this week. Oh, there's an ampersand right there in the Books & Co. Yeah, that's a really, really tall T on that ET right there. Let's go back and look at it. We'll look at some of these down here. But yeah, it looks like it has good language support. You know, you can go on here and look at all the details and stuff like that. They've got a bunch of languages listed. They've got a lot of details on this. There's 12 total styles, 6 weights, plus italics. This one's static, but it does have, oh yeah, there's the ampersand right there. That is one wild ampersand. You are correct. We can see this in a little bit more context with some of the character set and stuff. But 791 glyphs on this one. It's static. Not sure on the features because I don't have a full trial or review license on this one. But there's a PDF specimen you could check out for even more in depth. We could look at that in just a second for some of the some more of the body copy. But you can say see the base A to Z right here, and you can see some language support and stuff like that. But what I think is interesting is all of these standard ligatures. Look at all these ligatures. That's crazy. And you can go through and look at all of the different. Oh, looks like it's got small caps. Let's see. Oh, those are some nice small caps on there. Yeah, you can tell that I haven't looked at every single feature on here. This one looks really nice though. Merwede Sans. Let's just give this specimen a peek because I do expect they're going to show us this in body copy, and since that's what it's set for or designed for, I do want to see how it looks in body copy, and that is nice. They've got italics side by side with the Roman. Let me make this a little bit bigger for maybe not that big. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, we'll look at these right here and then we'll zoom out again. We've got Merwede Sans Light next to Sans Light Italic, and I think this is fine. We don't have to go through all of it. I'm sure the regular looks even better, but this looks clean. I think it's got a nice color to it. The italics, you know, you don't even really notice that those are 1 degree less on there. If you really look at it, now that we know, you can kind of see it. But in typical reading, I don't think it's going to stop you or anything like that. Maybe it would even make it a little bit easier. But when you look at it zoomed out, let's go ahead and go down to the regular weight. Is this regular? Let's light. If we get down to the regular weights, give this a good look. There it is right there. Looks nice. Nice solid gray color on there. No dark spots, no light spots. It looks like a good typeface, a good text typeface with a lot of character up close. So this would be great for headlines and body copy, in my opinion. Jim agrees, says it looks very nice in body text while having some character as well. I could have just read your quote there, Jim, instead of doing my whole spiel. This one does have a limited trial on it, but it does have more characters than usual. So a lot of times when you get the trials that are limited, they will only have like, I don't know, 70 characters, or 70 glyphs. This one's got about 280, so it does give you a little bit more to work with. But it is limited, and you do have to set up an account for the price tag on the 12 different styles as a full family. Going to be 345 euros. But yeah, I think this one's really cool. They give you enough to test it out, and I think it would pair really nicely with Merwede, the Serif, the original. Both look really nice though. Yeah, it would be a great 1-2 punch for like the right project. Which I think could be a lot. As long as you're okay with the character at large sizes, I think this would be a really, really nice choice. Okay, let's move on to our next one here. We're about halfway through the new releases. Then we're gonna get into some deep dives. This is another pretty big one. I didn't lead with it because it's not entirely new. This is Gravity 2.0 from Dinamo. I know a lot of people say Dynamo, but I have seen them present and they call themselves Dinamo, so I'm going to go with Dinamo. It's actually a little bit easier to look at on Instagram, so I'm going to come back to that, but let me go ahead and give you a look at the website. This used to only exist as an ultra heavy weight, so I think that the new version is called Ultra. Let's zoom in on this real quick. Can we zoom in? Maybe. These are all of the different styles right here. There are a lot. There are 48 because there are 8 widths and 6 weights. So a total of 48 styles on it. If you look at the heaviest weight there, it's called Ultra. Ultra was the only weight that existed in Gravity up until now. Gravity 1.0 only had that Ultra. The cool thing about it at the time was that it could go super condensed, super compressed, all the way to like super, super wide. So there was some cool stuff that you could do with the variable version of this and animate it and things like that. Now it has a bunch of more weights. 5 more weights to be exact. But it also has Cyrillic and it has Greek. Let me show you this on Instagram. They made like a graphic novel for this. They're really excited about it, and this is what their marketing mostly revolves around, and absolutely no shade at all to this, but it's just not for me, the graphic novel for a font. They're theming it. That's cool. I get it. You're seeing a little bit more context than you typically would. That's one thing that Gravity can do excellently, is just kind of like do every weight and every width now that it's been expanded. That's really cool, but I don't need a comic to tell me that. So we're going to look at Instagram real quick, because I do think that this is the easiest way to kind of flip through this and get a good look at everything it can do. So all the typefaces, all the fonts you're seeing on the screen right now are going to be Gravity. So this super thin, narrow type font right here is Gravity. This super thick, wide type right there is Gravity. It's all Gravity. So this is going to be really versatile. And just to spoil it, this has a very this has a price tag to match that versatility. So let me get away from the graphic novels. The price tag on this one is going to be 1,296 euros if you want the full family with all 48 styles. And if you're going to do the cool stuff like they're doing right here with the variable and animate it in something like Cavalry or After Effects, then you're going to need to get all of it. The license on this, I've complained about it in the past. But if you are getting the standard license for less than 3 people, it is going to include social and video and logo. If you get above three users, 3 people, then you're going to have to pay extra for social and video. And then if you get above 50, you're going to have to pay extra for the logo. So that kind of stuff does add up. But in general, just looking at the typeface, it's doing some really cool stuff. This is on my short list for doing a deep dive on because of some of these features that you're seeing right now. Let's go back to the website because I think I'll be able to show you these features. No, let's stay here. I'm going to stick to my plan. You can see default short ascenders where they're raising the ascenders and then they raise them actually up to the baseline. We'll just let this play through a few times. They're doing some interesting stuff with the ascenders here. You can raise them up, you can stick them on the baseline, you can make them short. This really has a lot of depth to it. And I could see doing a ton of editorial work, a ton of branding work with these kind of things. And then here we go, short ascenders, raised ascenders. So you could match lowercase with your uppercase. And since that stroke width doesn't really vary too much between the two, the stems are all they're optically equal, maybe even technically equal. I don't know, you're going to be able to do some really interesting stuff with this in the hands of a good designer. So let me know if you want to see a deep dive on this one, because I'm on the fence with a few of them this week for what to do next week. But there's a lot going on with this one. It's not an entirely new typeface, but it is evolved quite a bit with 5 new weights to it. Gravities 2.0 from Dinamo. It's got a lot going on and deserves a deep dive. I just don't know if it's going to get one. So you could check it out on your own. Great thing about Dinamo is they have full trials. So once again, you don't need me. And that's one of the reasons why I might skip this one. You don't need me to do the deep dive on this because you can do it yourself. Full trials on this. They're really easy to get. You can actually, I'll show you. You can click. You can get all of them, or you can get whatever ones you want. They even have some early access ones here. They'll email them to you. It's super easy to get these. No hoops to jump through. Yeah, so check it out. That is Gravity 2.0, recently expanded from Dinamo. 3 more new releases here. This one is, I'm going to say this in Spanish because I do believe Ciruela translates to plum, and I think that makes a lot of sense for this. So Ciruela from Antipixel is this new rounded sans serif. I'm just going to go ahead and read you this super short 1-line description because I think they do a great job with it. Ciruela is a 5-weight display sans serif typeface with round, squishy letter forms that give a cute and charming vibe. Its plump curves and friendly forms balance a playful aesthetic with a strong visual appearance. So if we scroll down, you'll get an idea of what's going on. Like they said, it has 5 weights to it. We can look at all 5 of these. It's doing the rounded thing, but it's also rounding all of these joints. Every point where there would be a straight line or a corner, there no longer is. We've seen this done before. We've also seen, where they just round the terminals on them. Each has their place, but I do think that this is really playful and fun. And the fact that it has 5 weights to it, I think is a real benefit over some of the other rounded typefaces that we've seen like this. Sunscreen, I think, is a great word for this. It feels very squishy. It feels very fluid. But yeah, it's nice to have this kind of contrast and a little bit of a palette cleanser after we're looking at a lot of serious, sharp, sans serif typefaces. Having something fun like this, it's nice. It's nice. It's just in general, it's nice to look at. But in terms of projects and things like that, I could see this being a differentiator from all the other neo-grotesques and sans serifs and text typefaces. Obviously, I don't know that you could use this for text, but it does have lowercase. I guess you could give it a go. But they're not using it in any small, they're not using it in any small sizes. They've got some interfacing stuff here. It looks like they're doing a mock coffee shop here on the right, hamburger place on the left. It just looks nice. I could see this being used for posters. I could see this being used for branding. 5 weights, regular up to black. It is variable, 691 glyphs on this one. I'm just gonna pause here. I like this burger one. I like the smiley too, that's fun. I wonder how many other emojis or icons or dingbats it has. Available per purchase from the Foundry. Trials only if you email and ask. I don't think it would be a problem to get this by emailing them, but I just didn't do it. If you want to get this at a discount right now, let me go ahead and show you this. I've got one in my cart already. So default price on this is $140 for the family. If you want per style, you just want one style, it's gonna be $50. So if you buy all 5, you're saving, wait, is it $30 or $50? Let me check. $30, I apologize. $30 for a single style. So you're saving $10 if you buy all 5 at once. Jim Girth says, this one is so sweet, I love it, me too. If you put in I already put it in. There's a discount, and the discount code is, Ciruela intro 25. Let me put this in chat real quick for you guys. I'm going to put this in chat. This is only going to exist until 25% off. This is only going to exist until the end of the month, July 31st. But if you want 25% off, you could get that. You can do it for one style if you want, but you can get 25% off that $140 price tag and get it down to $105 for all 5 of them. So then you're looking at about $21 per weight. And with 691 glyphs, this isn't just your typical display typeface. It's got some real heft to it. So yeah, that is Ciruela from Antipixel Type Studio. 2 more here. This next one's going to be on Future Fonts. Okay, so our second to last new release, which should make this number 7, is Catedra from DualType. Catedra display. This is kind of interesting. DualType always seems to have like good stories for their typefaces, and this is no exception. This was commissioned as a restoration and redesign of the University of Guadalajara's heraldic crest. So it's the typeface that was going to be used on there. I'm assuming the original version from 1925 might have been lettering, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's how this started. I am going to look at this on, are they going to load fast? If they load fast, we'll look at it here. Otherwise, I'm going to hop over to Instagram, but we can zoom in nice and big here. So it'd be nice if we could look at it in Future Fonts. This has 24 total styles. There's a text version of it, and there is a display version of it. So there are 12 text, 12 display, 3 widths. So you can see the 3 widths here in these 3 lines right here. There is standard, semi-condensed, and condensed, and there are 4 weights if you look from left to right. So there's regular, medium, bold, and extra bold. Being on Future Fonts, this is a beta. This is a version 0.01, and it is going to be in development, and I would expect that we're going to see some some expansions of these weights. I could be wrong, but I would expect there's going to be more than just regular medium, bold, and extra bold. The thing I wanted to point out and why I'm stopped on this ampersand right now is because this font has some incredible negative space. There clearly is some like real attention to detail, which we always see from DualType. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to Instagram just because it's a little bit faster to load things. And let me refresh this. It's just a little bit faster to load things. And I think we'll see how bad the quality is though. Man, the quality is too bad. I can't do it. Okay, so this is the condensed display version of it. I'm gonna get some of these close-ups, but I really like the contrast between the really crisp serifs. They've even got some they've got some wedges on the E right here, but mostly it's, kind of like a Didone type of typeface. But there are some interesting shapes going on, and most of them are very, I'm just going to reuse the word crisp again, but there are some like triangular shapes and some wedges and stuff put in there. But then you combine that with the ball terminals and the ball tittles on the I's and the J's and the punctuation and stuff. And it has a nice balance between those two. Yeah, you can see the S and the R right there. I do have the trial on here. I believe it's full. I believe it's full trial. Anybody can get this right here, download trial. You just have to have an account with Future Fonts. But I am 100% doing a deep dive on this one just because next week, just because I'm so interested to see how this works. I want to test it out. I want to look at it, put it through its paces, and look at all of these characters up close. I love to do an A to Z, even if I'm not going to present it to you guys. I just love to look at characters, look at the full set of characters. It looks like there's an ED ligature here, which is really interesting. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. But yeah, I'm really a fan of just the general vibe of this one. We'll have to look at it in a deep dive to get like a full review, but I like those crisp serifs. I like the contrast. I like the wedges, and I like the ball terminals. And like I said at the start, when we stopped on the ampersand, there's real attention to negative space. The negative space feels very intentional. If you look at the F up here, yeah, I don't know. I have a very visceral reaction to this one in the best way possible. Right now, the trial glyph count is 137, so this is very much a beta. I'm going to have to reach out to DualType and find out if that's the full count or not, but I'll give you all the details next week. Price on this one is $60, and that's going to be 24 styles, like I said. And with Future Fonts, you're going to get all of the updates for free. So right now, it says what's next is more symbols and more punctuation, more kerning, and maybe some math. So I'm assuming math symbols, but I could be wrong. Nothing, doesn't say anything about more weights, so don't listen to me with my speculation that there will be more weights. There could be, but no promises made by them. But it looks really cool, and it's off to a great start. Catedra, hopefully I'm saying that right. I think it has to be Spanish, right? Because it's the University of Guadalajara. Catedra from DualType, new release on Future Fonts, $60 for 24 styles, and you can use that on desktop and web. Oh yeah, license doesn't include video, so just point that out. One more new release here, and this one's going to be a display font from Brutal Types. We've looked at Brutal Types. Apologize, I just spilled water on my shirt. We've looked at Brutal Types a number of times on the channel, and I don't report on every single one of them, but I do report on quite a few. And this one right here, the S is what really stood out to me on this one. I'll scroll through this real quick, but I took one of the images from here and I have it in Affinity, so I'll bring that up. There is, if you don't know, Brutal Types, I feel like I have to give this spiel every time because I really like what they're doing. Brutal Types is basically doing like digital preservation of all of these brutalist lettering and typography that's on the outside of these buildings. Brick has a really cool one here. And they're making digital typefaces out of the signage that is found on buildings in different places throughout the world. A lot of these are in the Netherlands, but they're all over. So that's what this is. This is another one right here. It's from the outside of what is now Flex College. I don't know how to say the old name, but you can read it right there. John Van, well, I could probably read this kind of, John Van Nassau School. But what drew me to this one, I apologize, is this giant S right here, like this big, like you've kind of almost got like a normal-ish slab serif S, but then you just got this big like blob on the bottom that ends in a square or like a right angle at least. And I thought that was really cool. And then the deeper you look at it, the more interesting shapes you start to see. Let me pull this up in Affinity because luckily this right here is an SVG, so I can pull it up right here. And then I can zoom in. There's a trial on this, but the trial is going to be missing the E as well as the 3, so it doesn't do a lot of, it doesn't do a lot of good for like really typesetting something to show you guys. But it's got these really thick crossbars. We go down to the A to Z here. The A has a normal crossbar on it, but you get to the E, F, H. Look at these. Like a big fat nose right in the middle of it or something. Really interesting. Definitely gonna draw some attention. The J has a similar baseline to it that the S does, with that big rectangular shape on it. A lot of these feel, pretty familiar. That high contrast, sort of like jazz, for lack of a better name for it. I just remember that jazz typeface when I was a kid that was in PowerPoint. But this big S right here really drew my attention. Yeah. So there's some interesting stuff between the crossbars and that S. I think this is a really fun one, and I just love the project in general. I love Brutal Types. I love what they're doing with all of these preservations and stuff, because I'm probably never going to see this sign in my life in like real life. So the fact that it exists as a font and then it shows up on my radar is really cool, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate Ramiro Espinoza, Brutal Types. I don't have any stats for you on this. It's one style. Most of the Brutal Types are always 50 euros. This is no exception. 50 euros. You can get a trial on this, but like I said, it's going to be missing the E and the 3. So it's very limited, but you can see what they look like here if you want to check that out. Okay, I'm going to get a big drink of water, and we're going to get into a couple of big deep dives here. 2 deep dives today. The first one is coming from NMtype. It is Sastre, and I did double check. It is Sastre, which is Spanish for tailor. And that is because the designer, Maria Ramos, hopefully I'm saying it right. And my American brain is probably going to say Maria, but I do believe that it's Maria Ramos. I might even be saying the last name wrong. Her father was a tailor and had a workshop, and there is some nice images and stories and stuff like that. That's right here, Manuel Ramos drawing on his fabric in his workshop. Very cool. There is a really cool blog article here, and I don't want to spoil it, but I am going to give you a few of my big takeaways from it. This typeface began in 2014, and it started when she was in England and she was going to school for type design. The idea was to create the entire thing entirely out of curved lines, which kind of struck me as interesting, because when you first look at this, it almost looks like it's carved, like chiseled in, because those lines don't feel very curved. They feel very straight in my brain. But when you zoom in on them, let's go ahead and make one of these really big. When you zoom in on them, they actually are pretty curved. But there are a few rules to it. Draw a typeface entirely curved with entirely curved lines. Make it comfortable to read at small sizes and long paragraphs. And it's built on a broken structure using nodes. So I apologize, just kind of scrolling through nothing as I looked at my notes. These are some initial sketches right here. When she was in England, she was looking for inspiration and came across nature. So if you looked at a leaf, it's got all these tiny little squares and triangles and shapes inside of it. But when you look at a leaf in general, like your brain just says leaf, and you just look at the shape. You don't see all of these tiny little pieces. And that correlates to Sastre, because Sastre, when it's in body copy, let me just show you the specimen real quick. When it's in body copy, it looks like a normal, it just looks like a nice text typeface. Like, look at that. That looks amazing. It's so readable, it's so legible, it looks great, but when you zoom in on it, you can see all of those big details. Get back up here to the top. You can see all of these big details that just even goes into the S right there. So there's that parallel between nature with the leaf here and that. And then she was pulling in some parallels between the spider webs, and then came to the idea of the chalk lines that a tailor would draw on fabric. And I think that those chalk lines really kind of become apparent when you look at the typeface up close. There's a few lines on there that look kind of like chalk lines. Yeah, I'm really not doing this blog article justice, so I apologize, Maria. But there are 3 different things linked in the description. There's the store website, there's the article, and there is this mini site. We looked at this mini site last time, so I'm just going to scroll through it real quick, and then we're going to get into Affinity, and I'm going to give you the deep dive. But this, it's a really cool typeface, and I really appreciate all the effort that went into, giving us the backstory and the marketing and stuff like that. I don't mind all of this as marketing. I don't know if it's supposed to be, but like really giving me all the details that it started in 2014, that it was used commercially a few different times, it won some awards, and then finally, 12 years later in 2026, we get the full release, which is really cool. Let's hop into Affinity. Not brutal types. We're going to be looking at Sastre right here. Let me give you the details, and then we'll hop into everything else. No italics right now. Italics are on the way, but we don't know if that's going to be months or years. And I'll get to that in a second. In M-type, this is Maria Ramos. 5 weights on this one. It is variable, so I'll show you that variable axis in just a second. 663 glyphs, 24 open type features. You can purchase it from in M-type. Limited trial on this one, so I did request and receive a review license. I can only use it to do this review or show you this on the channel. Can't use it for anything personal or commercial. But you can test out the limited trial. This does have a price tag of 240 euros for the family on desktop. And I'm happy to say that it has a standard license. So no funny business, standard license on this one. You're gonna see, desktop, web, and app, stuff like that. Let me show you the weights real quick, and then we'll do an A to Z, which is going to be my favorite part of this. Like I said, 5 weights on it. Starts out at regular and goes all the way up to extra bold. So it does get extra bold. It's not, it's not a complete blackout or anything, but this is meant to be used at small sizes. Obviously has a lot of character, similar to some other typefaces we looked at today. Has a lot of character when you got it at these large sizes, when you're zoomed in. But this really is meant for body copy, designed for text, and I think it really excels at that. Let me go ahead and give you an A to Z because I love doing these and looking at all the details. You could see some wedge serifs on here, but as I mentioned before, the rounded. If you zoom in on this, while the baseline is flat, that's one of the things that the flexible nature of her rules was that some things can break the rules if it makes sense for the ultimate goal of making this work well at small sizes and long paragraphs and stuff. But you can see this isn't a typical wedge serif. It's very rounded on the outsides and on the top. And as we go through this, I think you'll see a lot of different areas of the typeface that feel very, very linear, very straight, but they're actually quite rounded when you zoom in and look at the details of it. So I'm going to stop zooming in and out of it. Just know that some of these straight lines aren't really entirely straight, which makes this, I don't know, you kind of feel that warmth to it rather than like the rigid nature of something that was like truly like an incised, engraved, straight lines to make a curve typeface. You can see some nice big wedge serifs on there. I like these little, on the E and the F here, the top serif there, it's kind of got a little bump that pushes up there. I'm not sure what you would necessarily call that, but there's a lot of little details like that. Even the bottom of the E right here, you can see we don't just have a straight line going across on that baseline there. Nice fun J on it. This is a very decisive typeface, and by that I mean there aren't a lot of alternates for this. There are almost no alternates, but it does have a very definitive feel to it, which I appreciate. I appreciate, I like a lot of alternates. I love to go through and ooh and ah over all of the different choices or the different available options. But I also really like when a designer's like, this is what I want my font to look like. This is what I want the typeface to be. And that's what it is. I can respect that 100%. Got the P and the R here. Just stopped on these for a second so you can see that it is open right here. I believe the B was open as well. So the B is open as well. Jim Gert's going to appreciate this one. We've got a capital etset here between the S and the T. Hopefully, let's see if this is a nice one. Jim, give us your your review. We've got a little lowercase one as well coming up. But this is a really nice typeface, and you're not really supposed to use it at these big sizes like this. It's not what it's meant for. It's designed to be used at small sizes, but man, can you really drool over these big sizes as well. One cool thing that this has, I'll go ahead and show you right now since we're here, is this EG, and I forget what this means in Latin, but it's basically when you're going to give an example. It's got an EG ligature, which actually works in Spanish as well because there's an EJ ligature. But there we go. EG. That's a new for me. I've never seen this before. I don't know that if I saw this in a paragraph, if I would understand what it means. But it exists, and it's an alternate. It's a stylistic set. You can turn it on, turn it off, but it's fun. It's cool. It's a nice little Easter egg, if nothing else. We do have small caps on this one, so it is a text typeface. Both of them we're looking at today are going to be text typefaces. It is a text typeface, so you've got some nice real small caps here. If you ever want to check out your small caps, you're unsure, just highlight one of them, turn them on, turn them off. See if the strokes match. This lowercase a perfectly matches that small cap B right there. So example given. Is that what it means, Jem? Okay, example given. Nice. I never knew. I thought it was Latin or something like that. You guys are smarter than me. Example given. That makes sense. What is the IE then? We'll go through the small caps here really fast. Daryl, good to see you in chat again. Oh, look at this I almost forgot. This is doing something pretty interesting. The small caps are monospaced. So when the first thing that stood out to me with this was the W. I was like, man, that's a pretty narrow W, isn't it? Because this one up here is quite wide. Let's get both of them on screen at once. W. This is monospaced. It's such a well done monospace that you really don't notice at first glance. It's only when you come to the I, the M, and the W that it really stands out. But yeah, this is a monospaced small caps, which is really cool. I didn't ask Medea why, but I probably should have. Maybe she'll leave a comment and let us know in the replay. But yeah, it's monospaced, but I think is really cool. I am going to have a little bit of a nitpick on this one. But we'll get to that in a sec. It's something that can be fixed for sure. But yeah, mono-spaced small caps are a new one for me. I don't know, because typically a monospaced typeface wouldn't have small caps to it. I'm sure there are some rare exceptions, but it's just not something I've ever come across, and it would be interesting to know why she did that, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't ask. This typeface does have some other ligatures, standard ligatures and stuff like that, but I've got my slash between the old style numbers here. We've got old style on top, and we've got the lining numerals on the bottom there. I'm going to show you the fractions right now, just because we're here. But there is an issue here, and it's one of the nitpicks that I have that I think can be fixed pretty quickly. But if we turn on fractions, boom, they work perfectly in the small or in the default old styles. They turn into lining, fractions. You can put the fraction bar wherever you want, which is really cool. You're not just stuck with half, third, quarter. But for whatever reason, it doesn't work with the lining numerals. So we've got the lining right there on the bottom, and when I turn on fractions, it just kind of smushes them together, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that's that. Since we're here and I don't want to forget about it, they do have case sensitive forms as well. So you can see the @ symbol right there. Boom, bumps up to the baseline. So if you're doing all caps and you want to throw the @ symbol, you want to do your parentheses, stuff like that, there are some case sensitive forms. I think as much character as everything we've just looked at has, I think the lowercase has the most character out of all of this. And partially because of these big ink traps here. I'm going to call these ink traps. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be or not, but these big ink traps that are in some of these characters, like the B and the D here. Once again, we've got those wedge-shaped serifs. They're not full wedges, you know, but they're pretty wedge-y. But yeah, we've got the same thing going on here, all curved lines. You know, working for small text sizes. They probably are ink traps since this is made for small text size book body copy and stuff like that. Ooh, look at the dots on the I and the J here. They're not symmetrical. That's really interesting. I didn't even notice that the first time around. That's cool. Like the crossbar on the, is this called a crossbar? I always call it a crossbar, I guess. The little crossbar on the K there. I always like that on the K. I don't know why. Nice, nice, nice. See these deep indent ink traps on the M and the N there. Very cohesive, for sure. We're seeing that go through the typeface as a whole. Really deep one on the R there. Here's a lowercase etcet. We didn't see one on the small cap, so this does have it on the capitals. It does have it on the lowercase, not a small cap. If you stick it in there, it just throws two S's up there. That would be a first if we see a small cap etcet on the channel anyway. But yeah, you know, it feels cohesive. It's nice. It feels like it should. We already looked at numbers, but I can give you a close-up of them. I really like the lining numerals here. I'm not always a fan of the old style numbers. They look great in body copy, just in terms of like in general, looking at numbers, you know, abstractly. I like to see the lining numerals, but they both look great, you know. They're a little bit different. You can see the 6 and the 9 up here. They have much more open terminals or open counters on there, versus the 6 and 9 on the lining are a little bit closed. So they're not just like bumped up and down on the baseline or anything. You can see the 5, the counter on the 5 here is a little more closed as well. Same with the 3. There's a lot of details. Actually, every single glyph is quite different. The 4 is open on the top, not on the bottom. Yeah, so there's a lot of care and attention and detail that went into this. And that's what happens when you spend, you know, 12 years refining a typeface, putting it through its paces, and you really come out the other end of it with something that looks just great. Let me see here. We've got some. Oh, Maria's in chat. That's Maria. Let me know which way I'm supposed to be pronouncing it. You can create more balanced vertical type settings with the monospace small caps. Oh, okay, that's cool. So like if we were doing like a stacked, like if we were doing, gosh, let me see. If we were doing something, let's get this set to Sastre. If you guys have questions, the designer of this typeface is in chat. And now I'm going to be much more self-conscious. If you were doing something like this, is that what we're talking about? Where it would, I think I have these aligning to baselines, unfortunately. Something like this, being able to line these up easier, is that what we're talking about? That's interesting, if so. But yeah, if you guys have questions, Maria is going to be able to answer them much more accurately than I will. I have the EG example given ligature right here, and you'll note these shapes over here, these stitching shapes, these are included in the typeface. We're going to come to these in just a second. There's quite a few of them down here, but I've gone ahead and made a little pattern there because I saw it used on the website, and I'm not, I don't know any sewing, any stitches, so I just stole the same one they were using. Oh, I did put my little line through the middle of it, so I put my own twist on it. But what we're here to look at is the body copy, because that's what this is designed to do, and it looks amazing. Once again, we already saw this in the PDF and on the website and stuff, so you already knew that this would look good. But it does have an interesting texture to put the monospaced small caps up here at the start. That's where I always stick my small caps. You know, that's where we see it in magazines and books and stuff. So that's how I always do my example. You'll note that this line right here, typically I italicize. I just have it one weight heavier at medium. Because there are no italics on this one yet, but they will be here one day. And I accidentally typed a V in there. Let's get rid of that. But the bold does stand out very nicely. You can see digital age there set in bold. Let me check my weights here. So I've got regular for the body copy, and I've got bold for digital age there. You could actually take this even heavier if you wanted with the extra bold, or you could tone it down a little and give it semi-bold. I know some people like to set their bolds a little closer. They don't like to make them stand out too much. I prefer the textbook version of it. You know, like when you were a kid and you'd see it in a textbook. I like to see them nice and bold and like really stand out, but it just depends on the context. Okay, couple of nitpicks. One is that the small caps break if you try to set them in a large body of text. I've seen this happen before, and I don't know if this is an affinity issue or if it's a typeface issue. I've seen this happen once before, though, where we set some small caps, and for whatever reason, they kind of end up being like big ligatures or something. Let me go ahead and get out of this view, because you don't see any spaces in there, right? So let me go ahead and turn off my small caps real quick. Normal, you can see these little dots, these blue dots. That means there's a space there. If I go back to this one here, there are no dots there. So the program doesn't think there are any spaces. So it just kind of turns this into like one big long word. So I don't know how difficult or easy that would be to fix. And I also don't think you're going to be setting a body copy in a monospaced small cap. But, you know, sometimes you want to get that texture of a monospaced font. And I think it could be kind of like a cool thing that you could do with it if you wanted. But unfortunately, it doesn't work right now. So stick with what looks beautiful, which is the default, and just make sure you're not breaking any lines with your small caps right now. Jim Girth says, I feel like monospacing the small caps could also help a bit with readability, as they mostly will be set smaller than normal caps. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and they look great in like inline and stuff like that. And if you were doing like a title of a book or something, you could stick them in line and they look really nice compared to, you know, let's just pick a word here and we'll do numbers and we'll stick it in all caps and we'll pick symbols and we'll stick it in small caps. And you can see they just look really nice. This does have capital spacing as well. So I should have pointed that out, but I didn't. This has capital spacing. So if we click on that, boom, it's going to space out the capitals a little bit more. So it's got specific spacing for capitals if you are doing all caps. Now that I've thoroughly messed up this body copy right here, let's go ahead and move on to some fun stuff, which are these stitches right here. There are a number of stitches, and I could see a number of different ways to use this. So this is going back to the Sastre namesake, which translates to tailor. I have highlighted some of them here with the arrows that I'm gonna look at in a second, but zooming in on these, there are two different main sets that I could see here. We've got the ones on the right, ones on the left, and you could do kind of like a UI checkbox thing with these if you really wanted to have some fun with it, because you've got the box, you've got the X, and then you've got your checked box right there. Same thing on this side if you just want to do the stitch on top and bottom. I think someone smarter than me could probably do some really fun stuff layering some of these stitches, because you've got the horizontal, vertical, and diagonal ones right here, which could be pretty fun. And then it took me a second to figure out what these were for, and this is going to be my final nitpick. It took me a second to figure out what these four were for until I saw these, and I realized that these are all arrows. So there are four different arrows, three different sets. We've got the stitched ones here, we've got the simpler stitched ones, and then we've got these, overlapping stitches. Once again, not a tailor, don't know how to sew, don't know anything about the terms to use, but you can see there are some interesting options for arrows here. This is my last nitpick, and it is that I don't know, like now that if I'm really looking at this, I can see like this triangle right here is pointing up, this triangle is pointing right. What I think would make more sense, and maybe it has a little bit less flair to it, would be to make the lines go in order of size, because I feel like those point in the right direction a little bit better, unless they're not really meant to point in any direction. But for me, the red one points up a little bit more than the black one. This one points right a little bit more than the right one, because to me, this one's pointing, the black one's pointing like, what would that be, northwest-ish? And the down one feels like the same thing, pointing northwest. So I was kind of like, why are all these things pointing in the same direction? I do feel like it has a little bit less character. But in terms of like, if you were going to use this for wayfinding or something, and you wanted to know to go north or to go east, I feel like that would solve the problem quite a bit more than the originals. But once again, I wouldn't be doing a deep dive on this if I didn't think that it was an excellent typeface. Those are my nitpicks, but overall, I think Sastre from NM is an excellent release. Jim agrees. If they should be arrows, I agree. I think they're supposed to be arrows because if you look in the glyph finder over here on the right, they are labeled as arrows. So all three of these are different arrow sets, which is cool that you have different options and stuff. But yeah, I think that they would just work a little bit better like that. Okay, let's close this out for Sastre, and we've got one more deep dive. This was Sastre from NM Maria Ramos. She was in chat, not sure if she still is, but if you guys have questions, ask, and maybe she can answer some of those for you. Otherwise, there's a limited trial you can get from the website. I was looking at the review license, so that's how I'm able to show you everything. But 240 euros for the family on desktop, and I think that is a solid price for a really interesting text typeface that I don't think you're going to find anywhere else. Let me get a big drink and we will get on to our last one. We looked at this one last week as well as a new release. Let me pull up the website real quick. Okay. This one also had an article. This is TinyTypeCo's Gagneur, and another one that I'm not entirely sure I'm pronouncing correctly. It is supposed to be French, but I don't speak French at all. So I'm going to say Gagneur because that's what AI tells me to say. And I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope that's right. Gagneur from TinyTypeCo is our last typeface for today, deep dive. And this is a non-dogmatic French typeface for text drawn from memory. Robin, another name I'm going to mess up here. I apologize. Robin Mienches. I'm going to say it like that, and someone can correct me. Designed this French typeface from memory. And by from memory, what that means is, she's seen French designed typefaces from Guillemins and Geralds and all these other French, typefaces that everybody remembers her whole life. And so now, rather than doing a revival or something like that of these, she is designing one from her own memory. And if she comes to a point where she's not sure what to do or not sure like what fits as a French typeface, she does what she likes the most. So there are some rules for this one, just like we had for the last one. Let me check those so I can get those for you. I'm going to go to this page because it looks a little bit nicer as I check my notes and blabber on. One, read this essay. I have this linked in the description. I'm not gonna go through all of it. Read this. This is a really good essay. Oh, it's a nice one to stop on. We'll stop there. But I just want to point out she's a really good writer. I've never read anything that she's written, but I've seen some of her video presentations on YouTube before. She's a good presenter, good speaker, but excellent writer. The rules that she had for this. The rules were don't reference any specific design as authoritative, work from memory, and when in doubt, draw the way I prefer it. Those are her words. Draw the way that she prefers it. So this is a French typeface, but not beholden to necessarily anything from the past. There are 8 styles on this one, 4 weights plus italics. And that was very intentional. She didn't want to set out to make like a 48 or 96 style typeface. This wanted to, like I said before, I respect when it's definitive. And this is another definitive one here where it's made the decision, like these are the weights that are going to work best for the use case it's designed to be. It's not variable, they're static. I probably need to double check that, but I have a review license of this and I don't think that there is a variable version of it. Let me go ahead and get to affinity. We'll get off this. Everybody's probably seeing blue now. I know when I read the article, I looked around the room and everything looked blue. But this is Gagneur from TinyTypeCo. There's the name right there. Robin Someone let me know how to say her last name. Robin Mientes. I apologize, Robin. 8 styles on this one. Like I said, 4 weights plus italic. It's static. Big glyph count on this one. 1,034 glyphs up to 1,205 glyphs. You can see this one is italicized, so I could remind myself. The italics have 1,200 glyphs, the 1,205 glyphs. The Romans have 1,034 glyphs. 26 open type features. You can purchase this from Tiny Type Co. Limited trial, but I do, once again, have a review license on this one. This is one of the reasons why I do my deep dives on some of these that I have review license for, as opposed to the ones that have full trials, because you guys can look at the full trials while I can give you a little bit something extra, I feel, with these. But also I love the 2 typefaces we're looking at today, so selfishly I just wanted to look at them. 400 euros for the family. I have a star here. It's not a bad star. It's a good star. These have really nice combo licenses. Let me just go ahead and show you that now so we don't forget if we want to buy this. They're doing the similar thing. We've seen this from, gosh, I wish I could give credit to who I've seen this from. I know there are other foundries that do this. I know Fabio Haag does this. There are some other foundries that do these kind of like combo pack licenses. So it's a mini license, a small license, medium, large. And then if you need more than 50 euros on it, or 50 users, I apologize, 50 users, 1 million monthly views, 3 apps, 10 ebooks. If you're bigger than that, then you need to reach out for a custom license. But for most of the people watching this channel, I always do the baseline, and I think this probably apply to most of us. So it would be 400 euros for the mini license, which gives you desktop, web, and an ebook. So the 400 euros, you know, if you were doing desktop and web, you could break that down to like 200 for each one, which I think is an incredible value for what we're going to be looking at today. We got another text typeface, and you can see we've got small caps on it. Let me show you the weights first. We're going to look at weights, or we're going to look at the italic and the Roman separate. So don't worry, I'm not going to forget to look at the italics because they are true italics and they're very nice. We got light, regular, medium, and bold. You can see there's a decent amount of a contrast in this. I'm going to mainly look at the regular one right now as we go A to Z. Okay, yeah, let's just go ahead and dive into it. So this will feel familiar. You know, it's going to feel similar to something like Garamond. I'm actually not going to be comparing this head to head because I kind of think it defeats the purpose of what she was doing with this typeface. Let me, yeah, read the essay. I'm just going to say read the essay. I know that's kind of like a cliffhanger. I apologize. Read the essay and you'll understand why I'm not going to compare this head to head with the other typefaces, because there is a reason, but I think that she says it much more eloquently. I wanted to stop here and not ramble too long, because look at this B. I really like the way that lower counter, or the top counter, like meets the lower counter there, or I guess they would be considered bowls. The top bowl meets the bottom bowl there. I don't know if I've seen that before, but this is the first time that I really stopped and admired it quite a bit. But there are some traditional, you know, if you squint your eyes at small sizes and body copy, this is going to feel pretty traditional, but it is doing, it's doing some interesting things and a lot of pretty unique things. Once again, this is a very definitive typeface in the sense that it doesn't have a bunch of alts. It doesn't have like a million styles for it. It's not even variable. The designer chose what the font was going to look like and then kept it at that, which I can respect. I'm stopped here on this K because the K stood out to me more so in the lowercase than the uppercase. Let me know your thoughts on that top arm there. Wait until we look at the lowercase first. But to me, the top arm stood out. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it does feel a little bit thinner than everything else. Let's go ahead and look at all these at once so I'm not forgetting. There's a small cap version, very nice. Small caps are excellent on this. This is the one that really stood out to me, was the lowercase one. And please don't let me influence your opinion on this, because I don't have like a strongly held opinion on this, but the K did stand out to me. And that could just be like a defining characteristic of this typeface, that it's got kind of a big contrast between the leg and the arm. And maybe it stands out even more to me because there's such a big crossbar here, or maybe it's the angles of the crossbar. I'm not sure. There's something interesting going on with the Ks. I'm going to leave it at that. I do think it's kind of like a defining character of this typeface. Like I said, there are no alternates, so you're going to get that K whether you like it or not. But don't buy a typeface you don't like. But yeah, that was something that stood out to me, and I haven't fully formed an opinion on it. So I just kind of wanted to point out that fact and let you guys sit with it. There's a nice uppercase etset for Jim there. Any of my Germans watching? I really like these little extended serifs on the top of this T here. It gives it some real authority or something. It feels, I don't know, something about that T. It feels very like domineering, very, very confident. But yeah, once again, we've got, some wedge serifs on here, rounded on the edges, but the top part is very linear, very straight. Jim Girth, our resident expert at all things German, says this uppercase etset, super swooshy, and he loves it. Very nice. We've got the lowercase one down here that we looked at as well. That one's really flowing, isn't it? We'll get back to it. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but gets a thumbs up from Jim. Good job, Tiny Type Co. I like this this terminal, this serif on the ampersand here, and sometimes I see things and I'm like, is this the first time I've seen this? And surely it's not, but I don't know that I've seen like a wedge serif ending on there. Sometimes we see kind of the curved one, like we're gonna see on this one down here, where you see kind of like the curve to make the T, stuff like that. I can't recall seeing a wedge like that on there, and it's probably existed, but it is another standout thing to me that just kind of looked cool. We've got an interrobang on here for anyone likes obscure punctuation. The interrobang is there. We've got some other ones included as well. Once again, small caps included. This is a text typeface. And I'll go through these a little quicker because the small caps do look incredibly similar to the uppercase. The only difference is going to be that they're made to align with the X height of the lowercase. So if you like the uppercase, you're going to like the small caps. I love small caps. If you didn't know, the Typography News logo that I use on all of the thumbnails is actually the small caps version of SilverType, because I just love the small caps so much more than the standard. I don't know what it is. I think there's something about the proportions of small caps. I'm such a sucker for them. But this also has two different sets of numbers here. We've got our old style, and I didn't put a slash in here. We'll go ahead and do that. We've got old style, and we've got the lining figures, so you can have those either way you like it. Obviously, one's going to work better in like spreadsheets and stuff. You can even do, let me go ahead and set this for you. You can even do proportional and tabular. Sastre had tabular as well. I typically don't point out the proportional and tabular, but it is nice to have, especially if you're buying a workhorse typeface. You want to know that it's going to be there. Let me show you the fractions since we're here. Click. Let me show you fractions. Boom. You get fractions working on both of them. They're both going to default to, they're going to switch to the lining numerals because that's just what makes sense for fractions. But yeah, so no matter which one you have it set on, the fractions are going to adjust and just work. One really cool thing about this one, we're gonna go in and out of this one. One really cool thing that was pointed out in the PDF specimen of this one that I've never seen before is, and I tested it on a few other fonts, and this didn't work. So maybe this is common, maybe it's not. If you put the slash through any set of numbers, you're going to get the fraction. We've seen that before, OpenType feature with the fractions. It's really cool that you can do that and just set it up however you want. You don't have to rely on the pre-made fractions. But this one here, if you set it as a date, it actually knows that it's a date and it doesn't change it. Isn't that cool? I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who thinks that's cool. But like if we let me delete one of these real quick, boom, and then we do the fractions, it switches how you'd expect. So that's a really cool, I don't know, feature that's in there, and maybe that's a default feature. Anyone that's type designer, go ahead and let me know that I'm dumb, but I was really impressed with that. And I did test it out on some other typefaces that have fractions, and that doesn't work in them, so I know it's not in every font. Oh, okay, Jim says he was referring to the lowercase. Lowercase is nice and swooshy. We're gonna get to that one in a second. Okay, clarification. But yeah, these are the ones that have the foxtail terminals. I think last time I mistakenly said foxtail serifs. Foxtail terminals, and we'll see some of those in a second, but you can see this sort of calligraphic brush stroke here. These they're even more prominent in the italics, but you do get some of them in the Roman as well. So you've kind of got this mixture between these. I'll just use her terminology here, the foxtail terminals with the wedged serifs on here. And once again, the lowercase looks excellent. Nice dots on the I and the J there. There's that K again. Go ahead and give you another chance to have your opinion. I really like, this is the regular weight right here. Let me double check. Yeah, this is the regular weight, but I like how confident this feels. Like I think it's a combination between like the wedge serifs on the bottom, the large serifs on the top there. You know, maybe part of it too is like the stress isn't like super angled or anything. Like it feels like it has a very balanced stress to the O. I don't know. It's doing its own thing. I think it really does achieve what Robin set out to do here, creating her own French typeface. There's the etset that Jim really liked, that super swooshy flowing etset. That's really cool. It's very fluid. You can see the S next to it. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. The T here, that's interesting. It's got a little bit of a lean to it. I think all of these have a little bit of an angle to them, but so you can see these here are very blocked off, these terminals here, these serifs here, but this T right here has got a little bit of a curve to it, which probably lightens it up just a little bit, especially at small sizes. Sometimes you see those T's that have like a perfect, let me go and grab my pen tool real quick. They have that perfect block right here that kind of fills in. And if gosh, let me get rid of this. If this was to be fully blocked in like that, it's much heavier than if you look at it the way that it's designed, where that's carved out. So that's probably a nice refinement for those smaller sizes. And we've already looked at the numbers. I just wanted to point out this does have the what do they call these? Asterism. It has the asterism, which is also the symbol for Mastodon in the Fediverse. So I thought that was cool that was included. Italics. I apologize if you don't like this typeface. This is the last deep dive we're going to do today, but it's not the last story. So stick around or come back for chapters later. But we're going to be looking at all the italics too, because I just think that they're so cool. Let me go ahead and give you the weights on these as well real quick. Oops. Okay, so this is going to have the same 4 weights on it. We've got light italic, we've got italic, we've got medium italic, and we have bold italic. The bold, I'm not going to be looking at in detail A to Z, but the bold italic looks really nice. We're going to look at regular though, because I feel like regular is just kind of, you know, a good baseline to go with. Oops, that is not italic. Regular italic. There we go. Caps we'll go through quick because, you know, italic caps are never super interesting. They're slanted. It looks good, but it's not anything you're going to lose your mind over. None of them ever are. But the lowercase is where they really shine. Nice old school ampersand here with the lowercase e. Really like that. The flourish coming out of the crossbar and the e there. That's really fun. Same thing with the small caps here. They look pretty similar to the Roman, so we're going to go through these quick, and we're going to spend more time on the lowercase because I think those are really fun. Numbers, you know, there's a little bit of, you know, obviously there's a little bit of like italicism. What would the word be? If you look at the 5 there and you look at the 5 here, they both have that same ending, but they are slanted and they match, but they're not incredibly different. Same as the uppercase. Let me stop tripping over my words and we'll look at this lowercase. Jim Girth says, prefer the carved out T. I agree the block one looks too heavy most of the time. So he's referring to what we were stopped on up here, right there. Yeah, this carved out sort of scallop T is a great choice. It's such a small detail too, but it lets you know how much attention was paid with the typeface. And look at this, we've got ink traps. This is how you know it's made for small sizes. Ink traps on the A and the B there. So interesting thing here is these wedge terminals, these wedge serifs are on the lowercase italics. These are true italics. You can see the little swooping calligraphic tails on each of the lowercase letters, and we got the foxtail terminals on the F here. But these wedge terminals are an interesting addition that sometimes you don't see. Like sometimes you just see the whole typeface looks like the I and the J here, where it's swooshy on top, swooshy on bottom. I don't know what the word would be, but your pen stroke goes in that same sort of pattern, whereas these have the serif on top, which I do think it again leads to that sort of like the authority, the confidence in this typeface. Interesting. The only K that we see that's not like the others, obviously it's a true italic, so you're going to have something different, but it's interesting to see how she solved that problem in terms of having it feel cohesive, because I would say that this does feel cohesive, even though it's quite different with that loop on the top there. We've got, you can see it once again, the P and the Q here, we've got these full serifs on the bottom of those. But then, you've got the calligraphic strokes going through on the R and the S. Another nice etset here, long S. Yeah, that's kind of cool. How much different is that from the other one? It's got the F going down on the bottom, right? Okay, let me just refresh everyone's memory. Here's our Roman etset. And here is our, I apologize, here is our italic. It's got the below the baseline F going through there, but it's still got that really flowing nature, and then it's slanted, obviously. I always like, in a true italic, I love to see the ending. I feel like this, the same way like an A, B, C, D, E on a good sans serif, like a geometric sans serif, how that's really cohesive. The V, W, X, Y, Z in a true italic is so nice to look at in a group. It's never going to be used in any context ever, but this is so satisfying to me to see just written out like that, the cohesiveness and seeing how they're handling, seeing how the people are handling those curves and stuff like that. Look at this Z. That's really cool. Yeah. So once again, really, really nice. I like this right here. This number right here. It's not. That's not something that I made. That's an actual glyph, the number glyph right there. I like that one. And it gives you a preview. Do you see these swashes on the end? That's going to be the next thing that we look at. Because it's been a while since we've looked at a full page like this. But here it is. A full swash capital italic alphabet. That probably didn't make much sense. But a full uppercase set, and they all have swashes. So we can look through these A, B, C, D. I'll go ahead and zoom in on them, but I wanted to show them to you as a whole because they do all have swashes, and that is not entirely rare, but it's not entirely common either. And I think that she did an excellent job with these. So in the way that I was saying before, where the italics capitals are kind of boring and they just kind of look, mostly like slanted in every italic, even if it's a true italic, when you have the swashes, it immediately looks quite different. And I really like these. I'm a fan of the swashes, plus the small caps, plus the true italic. Ooh, look at that G. That's interesting. Plus the small caps. You just get like a really, really solid workhorse typeface. Yeah, this is doing some really fun stuff. So I'm just going to zoom in on each one of these. Ooh, I really like the K there. Yeah, I don't know. The arm doesn't bother me on the K, I don't think. In context, it's easy to look at a character out of context and be like, oh, that feels kind of funny. But when you look at it in context, I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. In context, it feels fine. I'm sure if you were reading a whole book by the second or third page, those Ks wouldn't stand out to you anymore. Nice wide M right there. Wow. N, we saw that on the numbers. We'll just skip past that one. This is the O. I think I could see you kind of running into trouble with the O out of context, but the O looks nice. P, Q. The Q is really fun. Wow, look at it's like a spiral. Man, that's really cool. I'm a sucker for swashes, if you can't tell. Love the S that goes below the baseline like that. That just looks so cool, especially in a word like serif where you're getting the below the baseline on the front and the back of the word. That's really nice. The U. Let's see how the U differs from the V, because sometimes these can be, yeah, they're different enough. Someone could be confused, but in context, I think you'll always know the difference between the U and the B there. And we're almost done. Ooh, that X is really fun too. Look at that. Again, these foxtail terminals on here are really, really fun. And seeing them work their way through the full typeface, through the full family is really cool. I like that Y too. I always like these Ys that kind of look like they're splitting. It's like someone took a capital I or something and then just like peeled it and split it in half. There's the Z for zap. And we are cutting it close on time. I did not expect that to happen. Okay, I'm gonna have to go a little bit faster. I apologize, guys. Shoot. Yeah, I'm really going over. Okay. Gagneur pairs with Tiny Grotesque. The proportions and stuff were meant to pair with this really well. And I apologize. I'm gonna have to go really fast through the rest of this because I have to get out of here in like 5 minutes. I can probably push it for 10. So I won't rush too much, but I do have to get out of here. Maybe we'll have to start earlier next week. Okay, body copy. Here it is. It should look great in body copy, right? And it does. We've got the small caps in context. They look excellent. As a whole, you know, great color on this. No dark spots, no light spots. The italics stand out beautifully. You're not going to miss that something is italicized there because they are true italics and they look great. Same with the bold. Bold really stands out there. There are only 4 different weights on this, remember? So you're not able to like push it to a crazy one. The default bold looks great. And down here, I put a little line, this tiny line of Tiny Grotesque. I don't know what I was saying. This little line of Tiny Grotesque I put there because sometimes you want to put stuff like a little footnote or something, and you don't want to put it in the same font. And this was just to point out that Tiny Grotesque and Gagneur were designed to have the same proportions and stuff like that. So these two pair really well together. Tiny Grotesque, another favorite from Tiny Type Co., is going to pair excellent with this for if you wanted a sans to go with your serif. The X heights don't match perfectly, so if you were to type them in line, they're not going to match perfect. But in terms of like pairing them in like a sense like this, or doing one for capitals, one for, doing like different H1, H2, paragraph, stuff like that, I think they would pair really well. And I think that this looks great in context paired together. Manicules, I didn't get to point these out, but there are some really fun manicules, and yes, I did come around on them. They're really fun. I think we actually have some more stuff down there. Yeah, okay, we got some more. I just want to point out small caps on this one. They don't have that same issue, so it's not, it's not an affinity thing. This one does have the space marks between it, so if for some reason you did want to do that with, set everything in small caps here, you could do that. It doesn't really have the same appeal because it doesn't have the monospace that Sastre had. So I don't think anyone would do this. And the only reason I ever tried it was because it was monospace. It does have some fun dingbats and glyphs and ornaments and stuff. There's a whole tab over here on the right, and I have them minimized, but there's a whole section over here in the OpenType features with all of the ornaments. There are 42 of them, which is nice to see. I picked out a few that were my favorites. I've got the pilcrow. I've never seen a pilcrow that kind of curves under like that. So I really like that one. It's got your to-do list icons there. You could choose between X's or check marks, so another UI integration. And then it does have some standard ligatures and stuff like that. Nothing that I thought was worth doing a full spread on, but I like the way that the F here ends on that J. And let me just go ahead and show you how this would look, separately, because, one second, if we turn off the ligatures on this one, oh, those are not ligatures. I had gosh, what do we got going on here? There's the ligatures right there. Let me turn this off right here. Boom. So you can see, this has like a regular dot on it right there. So a lot of times when you see the ligature, it turns the F and then it puts the dot on the end of it. She maintains that same terminal on there, and it looks like that. So I thought that was cool, and that goes throughout the entire typeface. The full set of ligatures are all going to look like that. Big quotation marks as well. Oh, okay, we made it through. I apologize. I thought I was going to have to rush a little bit more. I do have to get out of here. So I'm going to give you one last look at this, and I'm going to show you the new videos that other channels are publishing, because I think that's a really nice way to expand, beyond objectives. But my final verdict on both of these typefaces today they are both excellent. Gagneur, excellent typeface from Tiny Type Co. I love that there are true italics. I love how much attention to detail is put into this. And please go read the essay that's linked in the description, because I think that she's an excellent writer, and a lot of what I've shown you today will make much more sense in the context of the history and background about this one. Yeah, but this is just to give you the real quick. Gagneur plus Tiny Grotesque right here, they look nice together. So you could put those two together and I think it would work well. But the swashes, the small caps, the true italics, this cool date thing, like I've never seen that before in my life. There's so much cool stuff going on with this one. So shout out to Tiny Type Co. and Robin and Gagneur. Great releases. Let me put on my face cam right here. Is it working? There it is. Hello. I'm going to go really fast, guys. We got like 5 minutes because I'm already late. This hasn't happened because I've been doing night streams, but I'm trying to do this a little bit earlier for people on the other side of the planet. And I think that it's a good choice, but I really didn't expect to go for 2 hours today. I thought we'd do 90 minutes like we had been. So I've got these linked in the description. Cooper Union posted new videos. If we go, I posted their streams or their live section here. They've got 2 new releases that are out: Family Planning and Method Acting. The one that I watched was Method Acting. It is really cool. It's about the typography for National Geographic. Tal Lemming, I apologize. That one was really cool. If you go watch any of them today, go watch that one. Cooper Union, Method Acting, that's linked in the description. ATypI, surprisingly, has been posting a lot of their videos from the 2026 ATypI conference that was in Stanford just recently. I reached out to them and asked them about this because I wanted to know if there was some reason they were posting them early, because typically they wait like a full year to post them. So there's a lot of presentations on here already. You can see 3 days ago, 5 days ago, 5 days ago. They're posting basically everything from 2025 in Stanford, or 2026 in Stanford. Which is really cool to see that they're posting these so close to when the presentations actually took place. Last but not least, I noticed that the Type Founders had a new YouTube channel. I am one of these 2 subscribers. I'm not subscribed with this channel because I don't subscribe to anything with this with objectives. I subscribe to my personal one. I'm one of these 2 subscribers. You could be the 3rd. But I reached out to Tiffany Wardle over at the Type Founders. She's my point of contact there. And she always gives me the insights. These are, you can watch these as standalone videos, but they are paired to go with the blog articles, World of Type right here, the blog articles that are on the new Type Founders website. So you can see right here, they go right here down here at the bottom. I'm subscribed to the YouTube channel because I'm not going to check this website every week to see if there's a new video. So that's the way I would suggest to do it too. But I did just want to give a quick shout out to the website as well, because they did release a new website, and there were plenty of stories to go and report on, so I haven't had a chance to cover this. But since we're here, the new website looks great, and I think it's much more, it feels much more 2026 than the old one did. But as far as videos go, new YouTube channel, this is linked in the description, and there are already 3 interviews on there with designers that you probably recognize. Okay, let me get a drink of water. We'll put the big face on, and I did miss some comments. I apologize. And we can get out of here. Okay, it's been a while since I've done a Sunday stream, so I'm proud that we finished, only 5 minutes late. Jim says, yes, in the italics you can actually see the etset is a long S. Oh yeah, with the line through it. Mostly using integral sign in maths. Cool, yeah. I'm trying to learn about Latin characters that I don't use in English or Portuguese or Spanish. So Jim, I always appreciate you giving your insights. I apologize that we had to cut this off just a little quick at the end, but I know this was already a long episode, so I appreciate everyone that hung out in chat. Jim, Daryl, Mantra Lanka, and Maria, thank you for stopping by. Shout out to FontBase for being the first sponsor of the channel. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next week for episode number 63. For today, I've been Curtis Simpson. This was Typography News number 62. And I will see you guys. I'll see you guys next week. I'm gonna go Sunday, same time, same place. I'm gonna schedule it so you guys know when it's coming next time. So I appreciate you guys. I'll see you next Sunday. Have a good week. Bye.